Shalom, shalom. In today's video, we will be in book 1 of the Zohar at the very beginning in Bereshit A. And the section is entitled, Making an Engraving Upon the Supernal Light. And in order for us to understand this section, we're going to need another book, which is Sefer Yira. For those who are unaware, this book contains inside of it the complete Kabbalistic system of letters. And so we're going to enter into this book. We're going to go into a section called The Gate of the Kings. So we read, with the beginning of the manifestation of the king's will. That is, when the king desired to emanate and create the world. And it states here, one should understand there were countless endless worlds before the world of emanation. To enter this mystery, we will return to the beginning, the very beginning, and understand everything was endless light. The substance of this simple light filled every and all things. This simple light being nothing other than the truth of his glory, which would be the essence that would fill the vessels, which are the letters. We should not imagine that there were even letters in this place, but only principles, the reflection of his glory, and this place was called nearness, or ayin. In the beginning, all was endless simple light. This light filled the substance of all things, and all things were of its substance. Its light expanded to the boundary of the endless in all directions, and there was no end to its boundary. One should not imagine that even the letters were in this place, but that it was the reflection of his glory, the truth of his word, which is the essence of the letters. This was the Kether of the Ancient of Days, and it should not cross your mind that there is a sense of time here. When it arose that he would have a desire, the endless light constricted itself. This constriction was from all directions, precisely in the center. It restricted its light precisely in the center, creating an infinitely dense and infinitely deep, hard spark. And so we read, with the beginning of the manifestation of the king's will, that is, when the king desired to emanate and create the world, a hard spark made an engraving upon the supernal light. This hard spark, which emanated from the most concealed of all concealed things, from the secret of the endless light. And so we read, when it arose that he would have a desire, the endless light constricted itself. This constriction was from all directions, precisely in the center. It restricted its light precisely in the center, creating an infinitely dense and infinitely deep hard spark. The vacant space that was now created precisely in the center of the surrounding light, that would become the vessel of his desire and the vessels of the worlds. This was called Ein Sof. As the light restricted itself, the spectrum of its principles were revealed. This is the secret of the Nikudim, the vowels. In life, this principle of restriction, called Simsum, or contraction, and is the secret of the breath. This principle, all life will breathe in the restriction and expansion, and all things will be circular on the largest and the smallest scales, meaning all planets will circle, and on the smallest scales, atoms, they too will circle. This is the Hokmah of the Ancient of Days in Adam Kadmon, who is the circular aspect, as we know. And the spark, precisely in the center, was infinitely deep and infinitely dense. This was called Ein Sof Or endless light, as it was mentioned. Letters with every other letter. So this was signified by the 231 gates, which is every letter of the 22 letters with every other letter. As it is written in Sefer Yetzirah, Aleph with every letter, and every letter with Aleph, etc. It is known these are the backs and fronts of the Sephirot, in the secret of a tree on top of a tree. Thus, the pre-formation in the secret of a tree on top of a tree, and back-to-back pairings in the secret of the two halves of the brain. This is Bina of the Ancient of Days, and it is known that Bina is the mystery of the brain. Thus, the hard spark represents all possibilities, and is Malkuth of Adam Kadmon, by which the body of the Ancients of Days was constructed. And so here we have the hard spark. And here are the 22 letters, which are 11 fronts of Sephirot and 11 backs. And Bina is called Mochin, the brain. And similarly, our two halves of our brains are in this exact same likeness. And the hard spark represented Aleph with every letter and every letter with Aleph, meaning by the principle of Aleph with every other principle, and that principle with every other principle. So let us return. With the beginning of the manifestation of the king's will, that is, when the king desired to emanate and create the world, a hard spark made an engraving upon the supernal light, this hard spark which emanated from the most concealed of all concealed things, which here is the Kether, and the Hokmah was revealed to be where the Simsum and the vessels were created, and then we saw the hard spark. From the secret of the endless light, and the endless light is the Ein Sof Or, took a shapeless form. The spark was then inserted into the center of a circle, and as it was explained, the light restricted itself precisely in the center. The hard spark is precisely in the center. It restricted its light precisely in the center, creating an infinitely dense and infinitely deep hard spark. So with the beginning of the manifestation of the king's will, that is when the king desired to emanate the world, a hard spark made an engraving upon the supernal light. And it states here, thus the upper endless light poured into this hollow vacant place, from which the constriction occurred and the vessels were first formed. As with this restriction, the endless light descended this hollow, vacant place of vessels, and struck this hard spark. And so we read, a hard spark made an engraving upon the supernal light. This is the striking. This hard spark which emanated from the most concealed of all concealed things, which now has been explained to be emanated from Hokmah, which was emanated from Kether, from the secret of the endless light by which it takes its name, and is delineated as the Ein Sof. Take a shapeless form. The spark was then inserted into the center of a circle that was neither white nor black, nor red nor green, nor any color at all. When it began its measurements, which is its restriction, it created colors that shone into the empty space and the engraving. And so the created colors that were shown into the empty, of course, as the light poured into this place, it became differentiated. And so it states, it created colors that shone into the empty space in the engraving. From within the spark, this hard spark, a fountain spouted, from which the shades down below received their colors. These shades down below refer to the 7 sparks that emanated out of the hard spark, and this refers to the hidden understanding of the 22 letters by the nature of the tagin. And these are the 7 sparks that emerge out of the hard spark. And this is the differentiation of color. They are called shades because they were dead. They first existed and did not exist. They did not endure. From the most concealed of all concealed things, which again is referring to the Kether, from the secret of the endless light emanated 2 faces. One cleaved and the other did not cleave. And this is referring to the upper light. And the light that poured in and then struck the hard spark. There were 7 sparks below, where the light would become differentiated from the light that poured in the secret of the endless light, which are given the names Ein, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or, which are the Kether, the Hokmah, and the Bina of the Ancient of Days. And it states here there emanated 2 faces, which is the lower face and the upper face. And regarding this, it says, from the most concealed of all concealed things, from the secret of the endless light, emanated 2 faces. One cleaved, and the other did not cleave. Its atmosphere was unknown until forceful blows split Atik, which is referring to the striking of the heart spark, and a concealed supernal point shone, meaning the upper light. Beyond this point, nothing is knowable, and because of this, it is called by the name beginning, which refers to Hokmah and Atiluth, which means the first of the sayings. And this conceals this very, very powerful secret about the creation in Atiluth and the Atik in these 2 paragraphs here in Book 1. So to recap, with the beginning of the manifestation of the king's will, that is, when the king desired to emanate and create the world, a hard spark made an engraving upon the supernal light. This hard spark, which emanated from the most concealed of all concealed things, then inserted into the center of a circle, was neither white nor black, nor red nor green, nor any color at all. When it began its measurements, it created colors that shone in the empty space and the engraving. From within the spark, a fountain spouted, from which the shades down below received their colors. From the most concealed of all concealed things, from the secret of the endless light, emanated 2 faces. One cleaved, and one did not cleave. Its atmosphere was unknown until forceful blows split the Atik, and a concealed supernal point shone. Beyond this point, nothing is knowable, and because of this, it is called by the name beginning, which means the first of the sayings. And in the highest ayin are the principles. And one should not even imagine that letters were in that place. And one should not even imagine that light was in that place, for light is divided. Yellow mixed with red to create orange, and yellow mixed with blue to create green, so Aleph separates men from Shin as a principle already pre-exists. And it was the constriction of these principles that would then create the light and the heart spark, by which things would later be differentiated by. And this is called Bereshit, meaning Beit Rosh. Beit is house, which is built with 7 pillars, and Rosh is the head, which is Kether Hokmah Bina. And so it is alluded here. Wisdom built a house with 7 pillars, Beit. And the 7 pillars, of course, are Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Nesach, Hod, Yisod, and Malchut. Established it with Bina and filled it with Da'as. And Rosh is Kether, Hokmah, and Bina, called a head. We know this because Rosh rearranged is Asher, as in Ehiyah. Asher, Ehiyah. And this is Bereshit. Contemplate carefully what has been shown. If you would like to obtain a copy of Sefer Yira to delve into these mysteries and their intricacies and their depth, I will leave a link in the description below and in the comment section below. With that being said, much of the intricacies and delicacies regarding the matter are concealed, as this is only the beginning of the Zohar, and the levels are only but alluded to here. But in Sefer Yira, it is explained in great detail. With this being said, Shalom, Selah, and all glory to Hashem.